He said, no, it couldn't be. I said, just because you can't find water in the desert doesn't mean there's not oceans of water somewhere else. And he started thinking for a minute. Oh, yeah. I said, I've been places. I was recently in Mongolia. I traveled the length and breadth of Mongolia in a jeep because they don't have asphalt roads there. We printed this book in Mongolian. And for 2 months, we traveled the length and breadth of that country to the far-off distant villages where people had never seen white men. And we chanted and danced to the streets. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. People were mesmerized. What are these people in robes and ponytails? And what are these markings on the forehead? And they're from 15 different countries of the world, and they're so happy. They followed us to the town hall where I gave a lecture. And when I finished my lecture, I invited them to chant Hare Krishna, and they embarrassed me. They chanted and danced and sang the names of Krishna louder with more enthusiasm than I could do and my compatriots could do ourselves. And at each program, and I'm not exaggerating, I sold over 50 Bhagavad Gitas. And to this day, I'm getting letters because they were too poor to have email or computers. I'm getting letters. Please come back to Mongolia and teach us more about Krishna. While we were there, we were in the Gobi Desert. There was one town in the Gobi Desert we visited. And I looked around, and it took us 12 hours to drive there through the desert. And I was imagining somebody who was born there, they may think, there's no such thing as a large body of water. They never have that experience. Maybe they saw it on TV or read it, but there's no TVs there, but whatever. Let's, just for argument's sake, you try to explain, near Manipal, down by the coast, there's this great sea of water, very nice temperature, and we're swimming there every day. It's very nice. And how could I explain to that person in the Gobi Desert? No conception of a large body of water. So someone may think, someone with a philosophical bent, there's no lasting happiness in this world, so therefore there's no lasting happiness anywhere. Like Jean-Paul Sartre. When I was in school, I was studying philosophy, so Jean-Paul Sartre, we were very interested in him because he explained things very clearly. He was like really cool, awesome, to the teenagers in the 1960s, and Jean-Paul Sartre. So he was also speaking almost like Krishna describes this world, but because he didn't know the positive alternative, the conclusion of his philosophy is he took his life. Jean-Paul Sartre. So the sadhu, he's very frank, he speaks about the nature of it, but just as important is he offers the positive alternative. Punarjanma nividyate. There is a world. It's not some poet's imagination, some philosopher's discourse, some seeker's imagination. There is a spiritual world. There is Vaikuntha. And how can we be convinced? Yada yadahi dharmasya glanir bharata bhushanam dharmasya. The Lord of that world comes from time to time. Paritsarnaya sadhanam vinasaisha duskritam. He comes to deliver his devotees, to annihilate the miscreants, and to reestablish the principles of Dharma. And he comes not only as in his original form, as Bhagavan Sri Krishna, bluish black like the monsoon cloud with his flutes, and his brother Balaram, and his parents Nanda and Yashoda, and the cowherd boys, and the gopis of Braj, Vrindavan. But he comes in various incarnations at different times in the history of the human race, in various forms appropriate for the moment to deliver his devotees, annihilate the miscreants, and reestablish Sanatana Dharma. He comes as a boar, he comes as a fish, he comes as a dwarf, he comes as a woman, Mohini Murti. He comes in whatever form is necessary, according to time, place, and circumstance, to put this message into the hearts of all pious and intelligent persons as an alternative to taking birth after birth after birth after birth in the material creation. In this age, one older gentleman, very older, he was in his 90s, he was lamenting, "Oh, Swamiji, I was born at the wrong time. I didn't see the Matsya Avatar. I didn't see Kurmadev. I didn't see Ram. I didn't see Vamanadev." I thought, wow, wonderful hankerings he has. Most people are saying, "I wish I had more money. I wish I had a green card to the USA." He's lamenting he couldn't see Vamanadev. He couldn't see Ram. Where will his heart take him at the moment of death? To Ram. The moment of death. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tiyajatiyanta kalevaram. Krishna says very clearly, at the moment of death, whatever you're thinking about, that will take you to your next destination. So if you've balanced your life by including some studies of Gita, some practice of mantra meditation, visiting the temple, associating with devotees, serving the Lord according to your capacity, these things will become dearer to you as you grow older, and the false promises of material happiness begin to fade away with old age. Then your mind will be full of Krishna, full of God, who is the reservoir of all pleasure at the moment of death, and you'll go there. It doesn't have to be difficult. Yes, it is a challenge. In Satya Yuga, the process was meditation. 100,000 years on the ice floes of the Himalayas. In Dwapara Yuga, the process was Agnihotra. Svaha, Svaha. One mispronunciation, the whole yajna is incomplete. In Dwapara Yuga, it was visiting the temple and seeing the beautiful murtis of the Lord. That is still valuable. But in this age, let's be frank again. How much time do we have in Kali Yuga? We don't have that much time. We're caught up in a tsunami of materialism in this present day and age. And if you don't keep up, it's almost as if you'll be drowned in the ocean of material existence. We've got school, we've got work, we've got family, we've got social responsibilities. You know, we maybe 5 minutes before we take rest, we open the Gita and we fall asleep. I distribute these books on Fifth Avenue, New York, like this. I go out and I meet a businessman who's working one of the great superstructures in New York City. "Sir, can you take a minute to inquire into this great wisdom of Bhagavad Gita?" "Oh, this is from India. It doesn't concern me." I know, "Sir, these are universal truths. You'll find them in every great spiritual tradition of the world. But here it's complete, like PhD science of God realization." "And it is from India." I said, "Sir, it is from the East." I said, "The sun appears on the eastern horizon, yes? And it comes to New York City. You're not thinking that this is an eastern sun. The sun is for everyone. This knowledge is not sectarian. It is for the whole world. You can learn it. You can become happy, even in this lifetime, by joyous spiritual activities." He says to me, "Sir, I have no time. Goodbye." You don't have a minute to invest in spiritual emancipation? "No, I'm sorry, I have to get to work." I said, "Just one moment. Goodbye." It's more like, you know, your pension. You're working, but you're taking some of your money and putting in the pension. Right? So that by the time you're my age, 67, you can't work. You need help getting up the stairs. Digestion's not as strong. Can't see, you can't hear. Forget the shlokas. So you have the youngsters nearby to remind you. Sarva dharmam parichaja mame kamsa. Thank you very much. We must invest in our spiritual lives. And here you have the best company, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, to invest your time and energy wisely in spiritual life. We have a assembly of devotees here in Manipal. We have various temples in this region, Bangalore and various places. Please visit us. Learn more about this great science of Krishna consciousness. Read these books. Prepare yourself to go back to the spiritual world. There it's described in the spiritual world, which is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. All walking is dancing, all talking is singing, and there's a festival every day. And what is the nature of that happiness? Oh, when you get there, you're escorted into a golden mansion. And all the cutlery is made of gold and silver and china dishes and no. What is the happiness of the spiritual world? Bhakti. Devotion to Krishna. That is the essential message of the Bhagavad Gita, as we quoted the verse. Abandon all varieties of duties or dharmas and just surrender unto me, Krishna says. I will protect you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Ultimate happiness is a relationship with Krishna, with God. He's not a light. He's not an energy. With all due respect to Sripad Shankaracharya, we are not God. If we're God, what are we doing in this miserable material world? What kind of mistake would God make to come here? No, we are not God. We are servants of God. And our happiness is being in service to the Supreme Lord. Just like you have a lover. I'm using a relative example, analogy. But the relationship is one of servitorship between lover and beloved. That finds its perfection in the spiritual world, where the supreme lover is Krishna. He has a personality, he has a form, Satchidananda Vigraha. You know as well as I do, you just close your eyes, you've seen so many images and paintings of Krishna. Trimanga Sundara, threefold bending form. Nothing mundane or material about it, totally spiritual. And he is the reservoir of all pleasure. And being the Lord, he's able to reciprocate with the loving sentiments of every created being. You can love 1 or 2, 5, 10, 20 people. Lord can perfectly reciprocate with the loving desires in our heart perfectly. And that is the real source of happiness. I've seen in my travels very, very, very famous people, very, very wealthy people. They don't know what to do with their wealth. And sometimes they have no family members and they're miserable. If you have everything in this world but you don't have someone to share it with, you can't be happy. But if you have nothing but you have someone to love, you can be happy. I've been to, in Mumbai we sometimes go to the poor districts, what are they called? The poor people live outside the city. The slums. You know how they're living. But I find sometimes very happy people, husband and wife enjoying a very loving relationship, children. I'm just giving an analogy here. If you have nothing but you have someone to love, you can be happy. So love, reciprocation with persons, this is our real enjoyment. Our family, our friends, our countrymen. Imagine locking yourself in a room for 20 days to be happy. You'd go crazy. That's why they put prisoners in solitary confinement. Nothing is more torturous than not having association. And the best association is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. He displays his pastimes, his wonderful pastimes with his devotees. Here in India, as Ram in Ayodhya, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Mayapur, as Krishna in Vrindavan, you read about those pastimes. They're not some fiction, they're not some mythology, like Indologists say, speculating. Krishna was some historic, mundane person who was head of a cowherd group that became more powerful and he was attractive. And no, it's not mythology. You think that Srila Vyasadeva, the great literary incarnation of God, is sitting down and writing the 4 Vedas as children's stories? As fables? Do you think Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, the Alwars, they're immersed in these pastimes that are just fables for adults? No. This is absolute truth. This is the destination of the soul. To leave this world and go and be part of those beautiful pastimes that we read in Ramayana and Braj Leela, Krishna in Vrindavan. These are the real relationships, this is the real love, and this is the real happiness. So it's a high goal, but it can be achieved even in Kali Yuga. Not by meditation necessarily, not necessarily by Agnihotra, not simply by visiting the temples, but in a very simple process that you can apply in the privacy of your home. What is that? Brihad Narayan Purana. I still have my cold. Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam, Kalo nasteva, nashteva, nasteva, gatir anyathat. No other way, no other way, no other way in Kali Yuga but the chanting of God's holy names. Kaler dosha nidhe rajan asyeka mahaguna kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha param vajat. Shukdev Goswami is speaking to a great king, Parikshit, who is about to leave his body. He's on the bank of the Ganges and he inquires from his guru, what is the duty of one who is about to die, sadhu? Kaler dosha nidhe rajan astiyeka mahaguna kirtana deva krishna. He tells him, because this is 5,000 years ago, Kali Yuga's beginning. This Kali Yuga, he says to the king, is an ocean of inauspiciousness. But kirtana deva krishnasya mukta, mukti, you can achieve liberation, culminating in going back to Goloka Vrindavan, the topmost planet in the spiritual world, by Krishna Kirtan. Kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha param vajat. This specific name of God is given because God has unlimited names, as we know from our Vedic scriptures. Even our Christian brothers, Islam, al-Akbarahumdullah. Buddha says, anyone who calls upon my name will be delivered. The same principle. But in the Vedic scriptures, the original name of God, as he's known by his kinsmen, the villagers, his dearest devotees in Vrindavan, Krishna. It carries special potency. This mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare. Maha mantra. Out of all the mantras which give some benefit, Maha mantra. The benefits of all the mantra is present in that sound vibration.